our TV drama is called Dissolved, but it's a working title, so we're not quite sure that it's going to be our finishing title.
Our logline is...
Blake Howell follows a trail of revenge to discover the murderer of young Amber Sterling and uncovers the many surprising secrets of her past at Oakley High with the suspects that surround the crime. Our TV drama is slightly based on Sherlock, which has had nearly 9 million viewers, so it's quite popular, and we know that this genre is quite popular.
It's slightly based on Sherlock because our main character has similar traits because he's of his unique and inquisitive personality.
And also, because it's kind of a crime TV drama, we based it, like Sherlock's also a crime TV drama. It's also based on Poirot, although Poirot is a closed series and ours is a serialised series, but it's also the basis that Poirot is the detective that goes around and tries to solve crimes. This is our character list.
Okay, so the first character we have is Henry DeRose. So at Oakley High there is a murder of this girl, and they hire Henry DeRose, this detective who's meant to be really good, but he's actually really bad at his job, and he always thinks he's right at the first clue when he's not. He never thinks about things.
And he's a big contrast to our protagonist, Blake Howell, because they're kind of almost against each other in this battle to find out who the murderer of Amber Sterling is. And Blake is very thoughtful and really does think about all the evidence, whereas the detective, Henry DeRose, just jumps to conclusions.
So our second character on this list is one of the suspects of the murder. So this is Mr. Pickett, who's a chemistry teacher, and he's also a secret drug user. In a classroom situation, obviously no one knows of his addiction, but he stutters and shivers at moments, so people have their suspicions. Mr. Pickett can generally only be described as creepy with his manic laugh and trembles.
Many of the students are very kind of wary of Mr. Pickett, and throughout the series we find out that Amber Sterling, who is the murdered girl, she finds Mr. Pickett doing drugs, and his motive, what his motive would have been if he was the murderer, would be to get rid of her so that the school never finds out that he's been doing drugs, so he doesn't lose his job. And
so the third character on this list is Corey Davidson. So this is the aggressive boyfriend of Scarlett Sterling,
Amber Sterling,
who died. Amber was originally attracted to him because he was popular and good looking, but as the story progresses we see how Amber is trapped in her relationship, which is bordering abusive.
And he's very jealous, and when he sees her flirting with other boys he can get extremely aggressive towards her, and this could be one of the motives that he might have if he was the murderer of Amber Sterling. Our fourth character is our head teacher, Mr. Porter, who has a main part in our first episode where we kind of introduce all the characters, introduce the school scene and the fact that this girl has been murdered. But then he's not really seen throughout the series that much after that. And then we've got our protagonist, Blake Howell.
Yep. Blake Howell he decides to solve the murder himself because he has an interest in detective work. We first thought he could maybe be bullied and quite lonely and drawn back from society, but then we realised if he was to find out all these things and question people, he needed to be friends with a lot of people. So he's more of a hipster character now.
And we were originally going to have him in a bow tie, check shirt and suspenders like this picture. However, since we're setting it in the school, we realised it needs to be more like a school uniform, so we're probably just going to have him with a black bow tie and maybe suspenders, but with the white shirt and black trousers. And he's slightly based on the character Sherlock, which we mentioned earlier, and that also relates to teenagers because a lot of teenagers like the show Sherlock.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then we've got our character Scarlett Sterling, who's the twin sister of Amber Sterling, the murdered girl, and Scarlett is the actual murderer in our series.
She's a stereotypical nerd and is extremely focused on her academic. She's quite lonely because no one really understands her because of her kind of outlook on society and other people.
And their parents, they're often away at work, but she kind of gets it in her mind that they favour her sister more than her, even though they kind of show their love equally. But Scarlett kind of gets it into her head that everyone likes Amber more than her, and she gets this mindset, and it just makes her really kind of angry all the time about her sister.
She's very jealous.
And we were going to have during the series that a teacher or something tell Scarlett that, you know, she could really do so much more if she wasn't so drawn about her sister. So this might trigger the kind of thought that she could possibly get rid of her sister somehow. And we've got our victim, Amber Sterling.
Amber Sterling is a happy, friendly young girl who's popular and quite spoiled by her parents. She's smart, but she dumbs herself down to fit in with her friends.
And her and her sister Scarlett used to be very close when they were younger, but they've grown apart as they got into secondary school because Amber became really popular and Scarlett chose the kind of more academic side in school, and, you know, Scarlett just started to get really annoyed with Amber, so she tried to keep her distance anyways.
Yeah, Amber is kind of the stereotypical popular girl that you probably see in like American teen dramas.
And we're going to have her normal school uniform, but with like her ties loose and her skirt very short, to kind of give off the popular kind of look.
We're also planning to have the two girls played by the same actress, but with hair extensions and obviously different uniforms.
And different makeup, because then we can have twins and we don't have to get an actual set of twins. These are our locations, and we've got the school, which is where our series is mainly set, because it's got all the characters in the school, and Blake attends the school, the teachers.
Murder takes place in the school.
Yeah, and the murder takes place in a chemistry classroom where Scarlett manages to get hold of a bottle of lye acid and she pours it over Amber, and like during a school open evening or something. So it is dark out, and there's people were starting to leave the school, but this happens in the chemistry classroom, and no one knows until the morning.
Yeah.
And they find Amber's body in the chemistry classroom. How the story will progress.
So every new episode there's going to be a new sort of flashback thing, going back to a different moment with Amber and people and all the suspects. So there can be a flashback of abusive boyfriend, so you might think like, oh, it could be him, but then the next week there could be a flashback of the new teacher.
And the entire series, we want to keep the audience guessing which of the three suspects it could be. So we won't make it seem more or less like a certain character. We want it all to be equal until the very end.
It will never be obvious.
And we had this idea that at the end, we could have a twist that Scarlett did do the murder, but she wasn't really the only one behind it, so there was someone kind of a bigger force that was pushing her to do it, because it seems a bit out of her mind to actually commit this murder to her sister, so we thought somebody could be controlling her, and that could lead on to a second series. Why it will work?
Our show will work because the topics and themes are popular with our target audience. Even though a murder mystery isn't the most common occurrence in the real world, the show explores real-life issues for teens, combating relationships, drug use and jealousy.
And many students may feel intimidated or upset with their siblings, so this can kind of explore that relationships that you have with your siblings. And it's also kind of, it's just interesting to see if you've got someone you can relate to in it, like if there was a teacher that you didn't like at school, could they relate to the teacher in ours? If there was, you know, if you had a boyfriend that was really not that nice, could it relate, you know, it relates to common teenage themes. So yeah, and it's also the kind of crime genre is very popular with teenagers at the moment. And that is our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, girls. That was fantastic. A lovely pitch. Could I ask you, did you do any questionnaires to find out any of the information that would be suitable for a teenage market?
Yeah, we did. It's not on our pitch, it's on our blog.
One of the things we asked is about how we can show a drug-using teacher in a classroom situation without being so obvious. So we got things on that, and costumes for characters such as the detective.
We were wondering if the detective should be really smartly dressed or if they should be very rugged with a long trench coat. And our feedback was that we should probably get a trench coat to make it kind of a bit more obvious that he's not really smart, he's kind of all over the place.
Okay, Okay, that's great. Have you thought of any of the Ofcom regulations? What PG would you give this detective series?
Well, there's nothing really out there. Like,
Well, we are going to show some scenes of abusive relationships, and there probably will be some swearing and the drug use. So it
might
probably,
have to be after the watershed.
yeah, we definitely don't want younger kids, younger than at least 12 or so.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think this programme can progress? Obviously, you've talked about a second series.
Yeah.
What would happen in that second series?
Well, because Blake Howe is our protagonist, we kind of want it to be, it's mainly focused on him and his journey of how he finds out all this different stuff. And so with the second series, we're going to be like seeing how he's going to find out who the real one behind it is.
Yeah.
And we're having some just like side stories and like maybe Blake Howe being in relationships and stuff like that, just to add on to it. And
That's
yeah.
fantastic. Very good. I like that idea. I like the idea of the flashbacks too.
Yeah.
To give people red herrings, perhaps. I
Yeah.
like that. And I love the idea that you were going to use one actress for the twins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good idea. That is very, very initiative. Good initiative. I will think about this one very seriously, and I will come back to you with my decision. Thank you, girls.
Thank you.